You know that feeling when your dog hears a treat bag from 3 rooms away, but somehow your business is invisible on Google? At SearchHound, your marketing companion, we help businesses get found online so customers don't have to go digging. From SEO to Google business profiles to showing up in AI search results, we help the right people find you right when they're looking. So whether you own a business or you know someone who could use more leads, point them in the right direction. Visit searchhoundseo.com and let's get your business on the set.
And love has many faces. See it in the eyes that look right into your soul. Love has many faces. Proud and humble, beautiful and plain, and young and old.
Well, hello and welcome to Love Has Many Faces. I am your host, Marilyn Milano, and this is kind of exciting news. We have author Keshe Chow, who is a veterinarian specializing in feline medicine, who has written a romantasy called Strange Familiars, and we're going to learn more about how she got into veterinary practice, about her writing. It's certainly an intriguing topic, and I can't wait to hear more about how she got to where she is now and about her book. So we are looking forward to that, and we're going to do that in just a couple of minutes. A little bit of housekeeping here. I want to remind everyone that our shows are now podcast, and so you can find these podcasts simply by going to your browser and typing in Love Has Many Faces podcast, and it should take you right to all of my podcasts. You can find them on Apple and Spotify or wherever you listen. Type in Love Has Many Faces podcast and you will find them, and you can listen to all kinds of topics and re-listen again if you want to hear more and share this conversation we're going to be having with Keshe. So stay with us. We will be right back. I'm very excited to be here with you today with this wonderful author. And after we take a short break, we will return. I am Marilyn Milano, your host of Love Has Many Faces, here on Alternative Talk 1150. Hi, this is Marilyn Milano, your host of Love Has Many Faces. The music that you're hearing during this show every week is exclusively original music from my own CDs. If you're enjoying it and would like to order a copy of one of my 2 CDs for yourself or as a gift, just go to marilynmilano.net and you can order directly from the website. I give a portion of every sale back to Animal Rescue because that's part of the whole cause. Thank you for listening, and thanks for your support.
Smart Talk for Smart People. Alternative Talk 1150 AM.
Welcome back to Love Has Many Faces. I am your host, Marilyn Milano. And as I had mentioned, we have someone a little bit different today. We have an award-winning author. She also happens to be a veterinarian. We're going to hear about how she got to where she is and some of the adventures along the way, and we will learn more about her book, Strange Familiars. So welcome, Keshe Chow.
Thank you so much for having me, Marilyn.
It's wonderful. I'm very excited to learn more. So you are a veterinarian and specializing in feline medicine. So do you only work with cats?
Yes, I've only worked with cats since I think about 2010.
Okay.
Wow.
And you have a beautiful cat. I saw your kitty cat. And what is your cat's name?
Her name is Wasabi.
Wasabi.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So yes, I was fortunate enough to be able to see this gorgeous kitty cat. I love to talk to animal people. There's always a bond there. There's always a connectivity because we understand what it's like and treat our animals often like kids. And anyway, it's a lot of fun. So I'd love to hear a little bit more, for starters, about how you wind up choosing to specialize in feline medicine, exactly how you became a vet, why your focus was on cats, and just kind of an overview of that for the sake of our listeners, and also because I'm curious as well.
Well, basically, I mean, I always wanted to be a vet because I loved animals and I still love animals. And so when I started becoming a vet, I worked in small animal, just general practice. So I worked with dogs and cats and all sorts of creatures. And I actually ended up going, so I live in Australia and I ended up going over to the UK to do some locum work, which is basically where you travel around and you do some casual work in different clinics. And one thing about the UK veterinary experience is it's very different to Australia. In Australia, there are a lot of little critters that we don't have. So in Australia, we are not allowed to have things like hamsters and other little rodents, just because there's a concern about them getting out and becoming like introduced feral species. So we don't actually ever see any creatures like that. So when I went to the UK to work as a vet, I had to see all of these different species that I was not very familiar with. And I remember one particular day when I was working in a veterinary clinic in the sort of Midlands of England, and I saw on my schedule that I was due to see a gerbil. And one thing is that I did not even know what a gerbil was supposed to look like. Like I had never seen one before, and I didn't even know what they were. I had to Google it.
Oh my gosh.
And I thought, well, like this is like really uncool. Like some people thrive on that challenge. Like some vets are really good at being jacks of all trades. They thrive on the challenge of being able to treat any species and do it really well. But for me, I felt completely out of my depth. I went into that consult room and I thought, I can't do this. I can't do every single species and do it well. This just doesn't gel with my personality. I would rather just focus on one thing and do it as well as I possibly can. So it was basically at that moment, I decided I was just going to pursue my passion, which was feline medicine, so cats. And I started down the path of trying to specialize then.
Now, did you grow up with cats as a young girl?
Ironically, I did not really have any pets as a child. I loved animals. I would always go over to my friends' houses and I would be all over their pets. Like I would beg to sort of see my friends' pets, dogs and cats. But my parents were not really animal people. So I was never allowed like a pet of my own. I think I had fish at one stage, but they didn't do very well, unfortunately. And so, yeah, actually, like I didn't really have any experience with cats when I was growing up. And funnily enough, when I got into university, I got a part-time job at a veterinary clinic, and it was at a boarding cattery. And I had not very much handling experience with cats. So I was really, really terrible at handling them. I would get completely like out of my depth. Like I was like, whenever there was a cat that was like a little bit aggressive or a little bit scared, I would just like not know what to do. So I was always calling the nurses and the vets from the clinic to come in and help me. And
oh my God.
Yeah. So I was really terrible. But then over the next few years, as I was working with so many cats and learning how to handle them, I became much better. And so by the end of my experience there, cats were just like my thing. I became like really good at handling them because it was like basically a baptism by fire. Like I just had to be good at them by the end. Because by the end of, I guess by the end of the first few months, they're like, Keshe, we can't keep on coming in and helping you out with these cats. You're just going to have to learn how to deal with them yourself. And so I did.
That's amazing. It's always intriguing to me how people get to where they are when they're in an animal related profession. Some people start out in an animal friendly family. Some people like yourself did not have animals. And especially it's interesting that when you were starting at that clinic, that you were actually a little tentative around cats. And I mean, I suppose if the claws came out, you're like, oh, what do I do? They don't want me to poke them or take a sample or whatever. So now what?
Yeah, I remember I was like, I'm just trying to give you food. I'm trying to help you.
I'm the friend. I am your friend. Come in peace.
Yeah.
In terms of specializing then with cats, you back to your other point, you didn't want to try to be a jack of all trades and master of none, rather specialize in something and really just get familiar with it and really devote your practice to that. So how long have you been a veterinarian and how long have you been working with only cats?
So I graduated from university in 2006. And I spent 3 years sort of working in just general practice. And then I started the process of specializing, which was a really long process because it is a tough road. I had to do sort of an internship, which was just kind of rotating through different parts of a specialist teaching hospital and learning all sorts of different things. And then I did a residency, which is where you sort of focus in on your chosen specialty and you train under other specialists. And then I did a master's degree, sort of doing research in that area. And then I did more work in a cat-only veterinary clinic, and then I did my study, and then I did my board exam. So yeah, it was a really long process. And I think the whole process of the actual specializing, including the study and the residency training and the master's degree, took about 7 years postgraduate.
That is amazing. I keep hearing things. I don't know if it's the same where you are. I hear things here in the States that they are experiencing a bit of a shortage in veterinary students, in part because of the long time that it takes to train, in part because of stress. I know in our country we have seen a trend toward corporations buying out some of the clinics and changing the way things are done. And also, I'm not sure if this is something that you're experiencing in Australia, but prices have gone just absolutely through the roof. And I just spoke to someone earlier today, and part of what their mission is with their particular organization is to bring care to senior people and their pets who sometimes are being forced into making tough decisions about giving up animals because of not having the funds. So, do you experience any of those things in Australia? I mean, is it different? Are you seeing some of the same trends? What is it like? And then I want to talk about your book. So,
Yeah, definitely it's starting to filter down into Australia here as well in terms of the corporatization and the stress and the burnout. We definitely have veterinary staff shortages. There is a high level of stress. And just moral difficulties with the job. So I think, and just to segue a little bit into my book, when I was writing this book, I think I could have made it so that it was for context for listeners. The book is basically set in a magical veterinary school where they treat witches, familiars, and mythical creatures. And I think it's really easy to sort of see it as, it could have been just this like fun little, cozy fantasy where everyone's just sort of like, treating like, nice little talking cats and dragons and it's all happy. But it ended up veering quite a bit darker than that. And I think it was because like, to do justice to the work of veterinary science, the actual career itself, like it's so rewarding, but it is really brutal. Like it is difficult from an emotional and moral point of view. Sometimes, like you said, sometimes it is the fact that we as vets, we want to do the best. We get into it because we love animals. We want to help people and animals. But sometimes there are cost limitations. Sometimes there's limits to what we can do. And that can be a really difficult thing for us. Or sometimes it isn't, it's that the owners don't let us do what we can do, what we know we can do. So
yes.
the book actually opens with a scene where the main character wants to treat the cat character that shows up, but the owner won't let her, and that is a really common scenario that vets face, and it can really emotionally impact you. And so I think stress and burnout is tied to the veterinary experience and the veterinary career, both from a sort of practical standpoint, because the hours are long and the pay doesn't necessarily always match the amount of work that you do. And sometimes you face, abuse from various sectors. But it's also tied to that sort of emotional and moral, the way that you're in it because you love animals, but you can't always do the best thing for them. And that can be really, really difficult to deal with as a vet.
I would think that dealing with owners who won't care for the pets in the proper way or won't take a step that could maybe save their life, I think that would be gutting. I would be a terrible vet. I would be having fits and melting down because I would be saying, but you must do this, And so I really I have a great deal of empathy. I'm one of these people who will do whatever I can for my animals. Certainly, I'm not going to prolong their life if they are in pain with no chance of ever feeling better, but I will always go to the wall for my animals and to try to deal with people who maybe didn't feel the same way. I remember talking to someone who did not have a pet at the time, and it was like, well, probably the most I would want to spend is like $1,000 in the pet's lifetime. And I'm rolling my eyes because I'm thinking, you've got to be kidding. That's like about 2.5 visits anymore. But anyway, moving on to your author hat. So how did you wind up deciding you wanted to write? Had you always had that interest along with your love of animals?
I did. And so I guess yeah, when I was growing up, I just wrote a lot. I was always writing and I was always reading. I always had my nose stuck in a book. And so that was like my other great love apart from animals and animal welfare. And so yeah, I guess like once I sort of had done all of I actually like put it all on the back burner. So I didn't really like read any new books. I was only ever rereading my old favorites while I was doing all of my study because I didn't have the mental capacity to read anything new. And I didn't write creatively as well for all that time. I just like sort of abandoned that side of myself when I was doing all of my specialty training. And then once I got to the end of it, I was sort of like, well, like now I've done everything I needed to do in veterinary science. I'm like, I'm going to try to rekindle that side of myself and that passion. And so I just started writing again and reading books, new books. And when I started writing again, I hadn't realized how much creativity is like a muscle that if you don't sort of regularly exercise it shrinks like any muscle.
Yes.
And my first attempts at writing again after so much time away, writing creatively because I'd written academic journal articles and things like that in science writing, which is completely different. But writing creatively, like my first attempts were awful. Like they were so bad. I was like, no one can ever see this stuff that I produced. Like it's still on my computer. It's just like not for anyone else's eyes but me. But then I just kept writing and then yeah, eventually sort of like started writing full books and yeah, just sort of went from there. So yeah, I think it's a really nice balance. And I'm really excited that I get to merge my two great interests now because my first two books were really nothing to do with vet science because I was keeping the two sides of my life very separate. But this time, obviously, they've collided in a really big way. And it's really nice to sort of, bring together my two greatest passions in one sort of scenario.
I think that's fantastic. So many people, I think, feel that they can't bring some of the creativity into their working world, or maybe their job is taking up everything, or maybe they're trying to stay into the creative mode, but they can't make a living, So, I mean, if you can find that balance and be able to do it. So, some notes I have here. It says Strange Familiars is the first book for adults. So, were your other books kids' books?
They were young adults, so they were kind of upper young adults, so 14s, and I guess adults can enjoy them as well. But yeah, they were very much sort of like set in a secondary world, very much sort of mythology-based fantasy. There weren't really many animals in those books at all. So, and when I wrote this one, I set it in our world, so it's an alternate version of London, and it's very much more grounded. It's sort of like something that is much more sort of close to my experience and our experiences, even though it's still fantastical and magical and everything like that. And that was really fun because, I get to sort of like, throw in more pop culture references and make it more sort of like realistic to what we experience in our lives nowadays. And there's also sort of like, commentary on capitalism and class and all that sort of stuff that I didn't really get to do so much in my other books. And the really fun thing is that with my promotion now with this particular book is that I'm getting tagged in all of these, posts on social media of people showing me their pets, which is I didn't really think about before. I was just like, I get to see all of these dogs and cats and like goats and like horses and people showing me, the book with their pets. And I'm like, this is just amazing. Why didn't I do this before? Because now I'm getting to see like so many more pets that I wouldn't have had the chance to see before.
I can never see enough cute animal pictures. And, I'm not a particular fan of AI, but there are some very cute AI generated dogs out there on Facebook, and they talk, and it's like we all wish that our pets could talk like that. So, like your point about your book. Now, what should people expect when they pick up Strange Familiars, and where can they find it? Is this an online purchase? Are you in bookstores? Where can people find your book?
So in the United States and Canada, the book is being released by Penguin Random House. So Ace Berkeley, which is an imprint of Penguin Random House. So it's basically available anywhere you can buy books. It's online as an ebook, and it's also in stores as a hardback, and it's also an audiobook, which is a fantastic listen. So I can't listen to my own words. I find it really awkward. So I don't really listen to my own audiobooks, but apparently it's very good. And so, yeah, you can buy it anywhere. But as for what you can expect, so Strange Familiars is basically a fantasy romance book. So there is a strong focus on the romance. It's an academic rivals to lovers romance set in a magical veterinary school that treats witches, familiars, and mythical creatures. And in this book, my main characters, both my two main characters, so the male main character and the female main character, both want to come top of their year. But first, they have to reluctantly team up to figure out the cause of some deadly magical surges that are starting to affect the animals and the humans of London. So that's
Mm,
basically the premise.
It sounds like a wonderful story. About how long is your book?
So I think it's about 400 and something pages. It's
Okay.
a first in a duology, so it's a two-book series. But in terms of how long it is, I think I'm not sure.
Just curious. So, I mean, it's a good sized read. So, I mean, and I
Yeah.
love the fact that you have been using real world veterinary experiences and are also speaking to some things that concern people in today's world, speaking to whether it is climate or other planetary conditions, or as you said, the effects of rampant capitalism, whatever the topics are. Perhaps people who were enjoying a fantasy will get messages through this book, whereas if they sat down and just read a treatise about it, they wouldn't even bother to read through it. So, I mean, sometimes the messages can be delivered in a package that is easier to digest, and the message gets through because of the story. So, it sounds absolutely wonderful, and it sounds like one that I should go pick up and read very soon. Now, I understand that you also talk with other veterinarians and scientists to gather research for your book. What does that look like? Is this for particular cases, different types of medical conditions, or tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so because my knowledge is so specialized, I mean, for so long I've worked basically with cats. My knowledge of other species is like very minimal. So, like I
Okay.
said, I didn't know anything about gerbils. I didn't even know what they were supposed to look like. But there's also, I don't have a lot of knowledge of things like horses or, large animals. I never worked in that field. Obviously, I learned about it at vet school. That was a requirement. But after that, I never sort of thought about them again. And so also little exotics creatures, we don't really, spend a lot of time focusing on those because they're pretty niche topics. So there are vets who specifically focus on just exotic animals, and there are obviously like horse vets out there and things like that. So in order to write some of the other creatures in the book more authentically, so there is one of the characters has a familiar that's a bearded dragon, so a little reptile.
Mhm.
And there's also sort of centaurs, and there's Chinese unicorns, and there's just like lots of different creatures. I actually went to some of my colleagues that specialize in like either exotic species or in equine medicine to sort of talk to them about like, am I writing these scenes like correctly, basically?
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
am I portraying the diagnosis of a hoof abscess correctly, sort of thing? Because
Yes.
I've really done that since I was in vet school, and that was so long ago. So yeah, and so they read through some of the scenes. I had a chat to them, did some Zoom like interviews and things like that, like this, and then in the sequel as well, there's sort of like a vaccination sort of thread, and so I actually ended up speaking to one of the vaccine scientists who had been involved in developing Australia's first mRNA vaccine. So that was really, really great. But it's funny because I think when I'm speaking to them like this, and I'm obviously a vet myself, and I'm a scientist and they're a sidentist, and so we're talking to each other in scientific language, and then at the end they're like, oh, so what's your book about? And then I'm like, it's a fantasy book, like with romance, and I think they sort of like sometimes they thought I was writing something a little bit more serious than what I actually did end up
But it's
writing.
just admirable that you are wanting to keep it scientifically
Yeah,
correct so that,
yeah.
misinformation is not getting out there. I mean, I think that's important because sometimes people may read a book and they might take it to heart, whether it's about veterinary medicine or gardening or whatever it is. And if it's a fantasy or a fictional story, and there may be things in there that aren't accurate. So I think it's wonderful. And I mean, there again, that is the marriage of all of your very intense training as a veterinarian, and then your desire to write and create this story. So I think it's wonderful. Now, I also understand that you've got some recommendations for people. Maybe they have read Strange Familiars, or maybe they're going to. Do you have other books or authors that you recommend for people that like this genre?
Oh, that's putting me on the spot a bit. I think whenever anyone asks me for book recommendations, I immediately forget like every book I've ever read.
Oh my gosh, that's okay.
Um, that's all right. But I think, yeah, I think so. In terms of the types of books that might be comparable to this, I think that the irresistible urge to fall in love with your enemy. I think that's the title. It's a very long title, by Bridget Knightley. That's one that I compared this one to, and also the Emily Wilde series by Heather Fawcett. That's one that I read and loved. That's sort of academic rivals that study actual like fairy
Ah,
dryadology. So that one's really fun as well, and it's a trilogy of three books following their sort of investigations through England. And yeah, I think there's like lots that are sort of pretty similar, but like nothing that really focuses on veterinary science. So this is like the first one I could find where they're specifically focusing on the veterinary side of the animals. Like there's lots of books that have magical animals in them, but when I was sort of reading, because obviously like I've been a vet for a while, I read like a lot of fantasy, and I'm always like, well, who looks after them when they're sick? Like surely there's got to be like some vets in the world when there's magical animals, some sort of like animal healers. So yeah, I sort of thought that I would write this book because I really wanted to bring that side of my life into my writing. And I also really wanted to do justice to my colleagues and my career. Like I think portraying veterinary science is really important to me in an authentic way. And that's why I did all the research to sort of make sure I was portraying it correctly.
I think that's wonderful. So, websites, Facebook, social media, where can people find you? I mean, you said that they can find your book, Strange Familiars, pretty much wherever they're going to find a book. Audio book, online, in a bookstore. But where should they go if they want to know more about you or just learn about the other books you've written? Where would you send folks?
So I'm probably most active on Instagram in terms of social media, but I'm also on TikTok and on Threads. So my handle is at Keshe Wright, so KESHEWRITES. But then if you want to more reliably sort of like hear from me, I do have a newsletter and a website. So my website is www.keshechow.com. So that's www.keshechow.com. And then from there, you can sign up to my newsletter. And I send them out quite sporadically because I'm not, sometimes I'm on deadline and things like that. So I'm not sort of a spammer of newsletters. Probably the opposite. Like you probably not hear from me unless I have something to say. But yeah, the most that you'll get is once a month from me.
They won't get the daily newsletter where it's like,
No, it's usually less than once a month. So whenever I get around to actually writing one.
That's great. Well, I mean, this has been a wonderful conversation. So interesting. I've never spoken to a veterinarian who has also written a fantasy book that merges a practice with fantasy and magical animals, and it sounds just absolutely delightful and totally unique. So, we've been speaking with Keshe Chow, the author of Strange Familiars, a practicing veterinarian and an award-winning writer. So, thank you so much for taking time to join us, and I cannot wait to find out more about your work and dig into your book as well. We're going to take a very short break and be right back. I'm Marilyn Milano, your host of Love Has Many Faces, here on Alternative Talk 1150.
You know that feeling when your dog hears a treat bag from 3 rooms away, but somehow your business is invisible on Google? At SearchHound, your marketing companion, we help businesses get found online so customers don't have to go digging. From SEO to Google business profiles to showing up in AI search results, we help the right people find you right when they're looking. So whether you own a business or you know someone who could use more leads, point them in the right direction. Visit searchhoundseo.com and let's get your business on the set.
Want to be part of the tapestry of talk on 1150 KKNW? Check out the Be a Star section on 1150kknw.com.
Welcome back to Love Has Many Faces. We just had a wonderful conversation with Keshe Chow. That's Keshe, Chow, Chow. She is a practicing vet specializing in feline medicine, and she is a best-selling author. Strange Familiars, the first book she has written that's actually geared toward adults, and it is a romantasy about rival students of magical veterinary science. And that just sounds so intriguing. So check it out. And remember, We are podcast. You can find us wherever you find your favorite podcasts, or you can type into your browser, Love Has Many Faces podcast, and there you will be. We are here to raise awareness, touch hearts, and save the lives of animals. And in doing that, we are helping their people too. So tell your friends and share our links and let people know we're here. And until next week, this is Marilyn Milano. You've been listening to Love Has Many Faces on Alternative Talk 1150.